Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Vulnerable Scientist podcast. So for this episode, it's a little bit different from the previous episodes. This episode was recorded earlier this year, 2021, with Priscilla Wakarera as the guest. She was the one being interviewed with Dennis Were and Valerie Kimutai. Dennis Were is from Planet Wizard Africa Media, and Valerie Kimutai is the MD for Science Media Africa. She is my colleague in that space. So I hope you enjoy this episode where she talks about her journey into science, and this is the second part of her story.
So you've done some research work. So maybe you could talk to us about the research that you've been involved in and what findings you have come up with and something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. So for my postgraduate, I was actually very lucky to land a project that was funded by FLAIR. In association with the African Academy of Sciences and the Royal Society. So the funding actually came from the UK government grant to low-income countries. And it was at a time that my supervisor, Dr. Kenyan, after he had the grant and he formulated the team, we were each tasked with coming up with our own projects that were in line with his overall project, which was on creating sustainable solutions to yield growth in smallholder setups. So my project focuses on utilization of Azotobacter. Azotobacter is a bacteria that is found in soil. It's free living. It's not harmful. It is beneficial to plant growth. It's very good for nitrogen fixation. It's also very good for phytohormone production, phosphorus solubilization, siderophore production. So basically, it creates a whole cocktail for your plants to grow very well. And the project mostly majored on identification of what strains we could find in the local soil. So our study area was in semi-arid regions. Our semi-arid areas of choice was Tharaka-Nithi, Kitui, and Embu County. Now, these areas have very diverse geographical ecology, right? So we chose the semi-arid areas in these regions, the areas that are a bit dry, like for example, in Embu, we went to Karurumo. In Tharaka-Nithi, we chose Tunyai, which received very low rainfall. We collected our soil from there and brought it back to the lab, tried to identify what strains of Azotobacter we would find. So we were able to find that we have very efficient strains in those locations. Strains such as Azotobacter vinelandi and also Azotobacter salinestris, which are very good in plant growth promotion. So far, we were able to test their ability to produce these plant growth promoting metabolites, and we're able to assess which of the strains that were identified actually work better with maize, which was my focus, because maize is a very staple food in this country. It's actually the number one staple food in our country. It's actually the most cultivated crop for most smallholder farms, second to beans and sorghum and millet. So maize was my main focus, because maize creates sustainability, because people who are farming maize are farming maize for their normal ugali. They're farming maize for the porridge. They're farming maize for things like flour and other pastries that come from it. So we were able to identify strains that are very efficient in improving the growth of maize. And some of the strains that we found promote very high yield. We have bigger cob sizes. We actually have more weight in terms of the grain. We also found that they have promoted the nitrogen content in the plant, so you have more chlorophyll, which then translates to more nutrition in your actual final product. And so the aim of the project is to identify things that are very good in promoting of the maize, and then we would recommend them as bioinoculants. So currently, we're done with the research. We've actually settled on a few strains that would be recommended for growth, for use as bioinoculants. And the reason bioinoculants are very important at this stage is because most smallholder farmers suffer because they're not able to afford farming inputs. And then they've also identified there's been a very big issue with soil fertility, and the crops are not growing like they used to before. They have a change in the climate, the weather patterns have changed, you're not getting enough rainfall. So if we could have a solution that encompasses all of this, because just inputting chemical fertilizers does not create tolerance to stress. Chemical fertilizers actually add stress on the soil because we know the harms of some of these chemicals in the soils, like leaching and accumulation of metals in the soil that lead to low soil fertility as well. So coming up with a bioinoculant that is based on microbes is very beneficial to farmers, because it ensures that your plants are high yielding. It also ensures that you have stress tolerance. Like, for example, if you're using microbes that promote tolerance to water stress. So even in times when you expected it to rain more and the rain you did not get the actual amount of rainfall that you're used to, your plants still grow, and they grow healthily as well. So microbes are offering this solution. And Azotobacter especially helps in water stress management, and also in pest and parasites management, because some of these microbes have an interaction with other microbes in the soil, and they actually act as antibiotics and antifungals. So your plants will actually have less infections. So you're actually sure that you did not just input a fertilizer in your soil, you also it also acts as a pesticide, and it also acts as a stress tolerant as well. So our project is mainly for small scale farmers. That's what we've been working with. Mostly small scale farmers, because they're the ones who are really mostly affected by the loss of yield. Because what happens is they are not even able to afford good quality seeds, so they'll keep recycling the type of seeds that they had. So every time that they harvest their food, they have fewer gunias in their granaries, and that has been a really big issue, because if you cannot ensure food stability in a region, then everything else is not. If people are well fed, they cannot be healthy, they cannot even get access to good education, because some of these people, subsistence farmers, sell the excess to pay for the kids' school fees, and the kids may not even be strong enough to actually go to school if there is no food security. For us, food security is paramount, and that's what this project is really about, creating sustainable solutions to the problem of food production.
And your answer reminds me why I like this interview so much, because it gives people hope. It reminds me of when the Irish had a really bad famine because they were dependent on potatoes, and then the potatoes got sick, and it was a bad famine. But now we're hearing someone who is making sure that maize will never get sick, so that you can continue having something to eat. So that's awesome. I think I'm happier today that I've learned that there's someone working on that. And then
that's true. And also on the side, I've actually been working on a company. It's called Jupri Enterprises. Our idea was to introduce the microbe bioinoculants to the farmers. We interacted with different farmers at different levels, and we were able to introduce what bioinoculants are, because the biggest issue that you find with most smallholders, and especially even with the large scale farmers in this country, is people are so used to chemical farming that they do not know that we have alternatives. You will go to somebody and they'll tell you, no, we don't practice organic farming. And you tell them it's not really exactly like organic farming. It's a form of organic farming, yes, but it creates, you actually have more yielding. So with Jupri Enterprises, our plan was to eventually produce bioinoculants that we can actually introduce to the farmers. But when we actually went into the market, we realized that most of the farmers do not have a background on what microbe bioinoculants are, and it's very hard for you to sell something when people do not understand what you're selling. So we resolved to restructure the whole company, and now what we do, we actually reach out to farmers, and then we introduce what microbe biofertilizers are. We've been helping them with soil testing so that they can know what type of nutrients are lacking in their soil. That way we are able to recommend a specific microbe that is specific to the nutrients they're lacking. Like, for example, if you have a deficiency in phosphorus, we'd recommend a P-solubilizing bioinoculant. And so far, we've been able to reach out to very many farmers. The only challenge we've been having is in our quest to reach out to these farmers, it's not really been for profit. So we've really been working a bit non-profit for now. But we understand that when you're in sciences, it's required. It's required that you reach out to people, that you actually teach them that just because you started a company on a certain, it doesn't mean that you need to start making your profit immediately. And our target is that by the end of next year, we will have educated enough people that by the time we're able to actually launch our own products, that the market will be ready for the products at that time. So currently what we supply people is products that are actually readily available in the market. We've been getting our products from farms that produce bioinoculants. We have a few in the country. We have Mare Fertilizers that produce a rhizobia biofertilizer with a patent from the Nairobi University. We also have Dudutech that has Rhizotech, which is a fungi bioinoculant based on AMF, which is a mycorrhizal fungi. And we also have IPM in Thika that also produces some of these biofertilizers mixed up together. So the biofertilizers are actually available in the market, and we hope that people will be able to actually take them up and see how they work. So our work at the enterprises for this time is really just educating farmers and interacting with them and making sure that they are aware of what is already available for them, on how they can improve their own health, they can improve their farm, and then automatically lead higher yields. Because I think it's about time people drifted away from chemical farming and moving into things that are more sustainable and more long-term. Because the second you introduce a bioinoculant to your soil, the bioinoculant stays in your soil as long as the conditions are okay. Like, for example, if I introduce Azotobacter to a certain area, it will keep growing in that soil as long as the conditions in the soils are favorable for its growth, which is unlike use of chemical fertilizers that deplete in the soil. Like, for example, if you left like CAN uncovered, after a while it's very volatile. It will not work later on. So basically, people should really just go into accepting science in farming and science in agriculture as well.
Yeah, and I hope this generation that has gone through school can start to appreciate science as a tool for solving problems. That will really make the adoption of these technologies much easier. So
That's
can now.
true.
Yeah, I wanted us to move towards back to high school a bit and campus. Some of the highs and lows that you've experienced, high school, campus, after campus, and what advice you give your younger self from now that you're an adult.
So the advice I would give to my younger self at this stage in my life would be to be keen on each and every experience that you get. Like if you're going to vote for those science congress, really to win on the project I'm there to present, I'm there to also learn. I'm there to learn from other projects that have come in. And I think that would have been very, very important for me in high school, because I was very competitive, and I'd go to these symposiums and congresses to just win. But really, there's a whole experience that you miss out when your focus is on my project is really a good project and I have to win. And you miss out on all the other good projects that are coming in. Something I wish I knew in campus, I wish I knew, most people don't actually say this, I wish somebody told me to work really hard, because your grades are very important. And that's the one thing that most undergraduate students don't really have anyone telling them. Make sure your grades are really good, because the second you graduate and your grades are exceptional, you're automatically eligible for scholarships. And we have people who worked really hard, who by the time we were graduating, we'd graduate like in July, and by September they were in China doing full scholarships. So I think you should really, really work on your grades. Make your teachers your friends. Most of these teachers are really friendly, and they really want you to grow, because they have also been exactly where you were. So make them your friend. Talk to them, ask them, like you could ask them, do you have any project ongoing that I can assist on? Just assist on those projects, because you're going to learn more when you're doing the actual work than you're going to learn in a classroom. So I also mentioned that you should take as many attachments and as many internships as you get. And also something else, immediately I wish this is personally for me, I wish that I actually went for my master's earlier. I wish that I did not have to wait that duration of time, because really there was nothing that I was actually waiting for. I think if you have the opportunity and you're able to actually further your studies immediately after you graduate, kindly enroll for your master's studies. We have there's so many schools that can take you up immediately. It's not like Kitambo, when people were asked to wait a certain number of years before you're actually eligible for a certain course. As long as your grades are okay, you're automatically going to be eligible. So I think personally, you should take as many opportunities as you can get. Don't pass up any opportunity because you think it doesn't pay enough. I think that's one of the mistakes I used to make growing up. The first thing if you called me for a job, the first thing I would ask is, how much does it pay? And now that I'm older, I already know is the question you should ask yourself is, what will I learn? What do I learn from this opportunity? They're asking me to come in for about 3 days a week only. So what can I learn in these 3 days, instead of considering how much will I spend to actually go there for the 3 days and there's no compensation? I think thinking like that isn't progressive, it's retrogressive, and people should really just try to think of what you can gain. Think about what you're going to benefit from this. And any advice I could give to students right now who are making their decisions, or to people who are just going into the sciences, take advantage of online platforms. There's this platform called FutureLearn. FutureLearn is online. Most of the courses are free. And after I discovered FutureLearn, I don't think I get bored. Anytime you're at home and there's nothing to watch, you have nothing to do, just get on FutureLearn and do a course. They have very different courses. Their courses range from cancer to physics, the whole spectrum on antimicrobial resistance. Actually, when I was actually starting out on doing my coursework project for my postgraduate, and I wanted to do a course on antimicrobial resistance. I had background in antimicrobial resistance, but I didn't really know how to actually do the project because I hadn't done it before, because the units you learn in school and the lab sessions you have in school are never actually enough. Sorry. So you're not going to learn everything that you should have learned in the lab. And these platforms like FutureLearn have very many courses that have actually well drawn out. Like I've learned statistical analysis from FutureLearn. It's actually very free. If you have a computer and you have time and you have internet, then it's going to be very easy for you to progress. As well, something else that you can learn on there is okay, maybe just generally, you don't have to be a future learn, just make sure you do these courses. If it's sciences, make sure you study a course on statistics, so that when you actually get your results for whatever project you have, you actually run your own statistical analysis. If you're going to be in microbiology or any other field, it doesn't necessarily have to be molecular biology or biotechnology. Always learn how to handle molecular data. Introduce yourself to what molecular data is, how I'm supposed to analyze it, because you may send out your samples for sequencing. You may not need to actually know how sequencing is done, but as soon as you get your results in, you're going to need to analyze them. And the best way for you to do so is to learn the softwares that are required. Learn as many softwares as you can do. Study R programming. It doesn't matter what type of a scientist you are, you have to have studied R programming. And honestly, R programming as a sub-course, as a small course, is very expensive. But there are hundreds, there are actually tens of workshops online that are free and available to students that you can enroll on and learn the programming for free. Like, you could take about 2 or 3 weeks to learn the whole thing. And the second that you're actually going into research, you actually have background on those things. Because what happens is, when you actually go to an employer in the sciences, they ask you for what basic certificates you have. But why they really hire you for that job is because you have skills. So they'll ask you, what type of skills do you bring to a table? And you'll tell them, I can run SAS statistical software, I can do SPSS, I can do R programming, I can analyze data from next generation sequencing. And these are the things that these organizations and these research facilities are really looking for. They're looking for a scientist who has background in microbiology, yes, but they can actually analyze their own data, because there is no use really in doing a project when you're having other people do the nitty-gritties of it for you. So you should really just be all-rounded. Don't just focus on one field. If you're interested in biochemistry, there are also other things that you can do to make sure that you're an all-rounded scientist. And I think the most important thing for you to become is an all-rounded scientist. Become somebody who walks into a lab and does the whole does a whole circumference without needing to step out and ask somebody else for help. Learn how to do all these type of things. And it's really important, because even for us, like the experience that I got at KFS, working field work, getting in gumboots, wearing an overall from morning to evening, I think the best part for me with that was when I actually had to do field work for my project. I wasn't shy with getting dirty, because what happens for most people who are used to just being in the lab and taking notes, and the lab is very clean, and having a hairnet on and gloves on and a lab coat on and looking all polished. Once you take them to a field, they get into a culture shock. But if you're already mentally prepared for it, you're going to go into that field and you're going to actually collect your samples yourself, collect all that soil. You're going to be planting the maize together with your cashews. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to have a fieldwork project and you're just asking them to plant, you're just telling them how to plant, how do you actually know that they have set your treatments right unless actually they are with them on the ground? So you actually have to have skills. You have to know what type of spacing is required either when you're planting maize. So really, be an all-rounded scientist. If you're interested in an area, make sure you know everything about that area. Don't just focus on the theoretical version of it. Don't just focus on what is expected, what other people, what you see in the books. Be all-rounded. Find out what else is required in this field and do it. I think that's the most important. That's the most important requirement in that whole when you're a scientist.
You can tell by the nature of the questions that we are almost winding up. But something about being in college or campus is you don't really have a perspective of the world. But now, from your standpoint, what opportunities would you say you can see for future scientists out there?
There are very many opportunities that are available for scientists, especially for the young scientists. The world is like your oyster. There's really a lot that is available. I think if you're coming to the end of your undergraduate, the first thing you should do is start applying to scholarships. As long as you have your transcripts, apply to as many scholarships that you can get. And this is something nobody actually told me. We actually have abroad that have a joint master's degree program. So instead of going either for your master's for 2 years and then doing your PhD for 5 years, they actually combine them. So after about 1.5 years, you get your master's, which could be based mostly on coursework. I think the Melbourne University in Australia does that. Apply for these places. Send cold emails to as many lecturers that you're interested in, state your interests, and really just hope that they're going to find that you're qualified to join their team. Always be looking out. Don't just stay comfortable. I know most people after clearing campus, most people stay at home. You realize that we don't really have jobs, so you maybe end up in sales. If you actually do end up in sales, work those sales as best as you can. If you actually end up as a med rep, work it as best as you can. Every single experience that you get is important. It doesn't matter what field you're getting it in, it is very important. Like personally for me, working in business and working in management has been really good because I was able to have background on project management, and having background on project management enables you to even manage your own time when you actually come to progress in research, because project management is project management, and even the scientific projects require the same type of formula for you to grow. So there are very many future prospects for scientists, and I think people should really take advantage of it. We have trainings, we have workshops that are local. We also have some that are abroad that you can be eligible to. I think my advice would be apply to anything and everything. Anything that you feel you're qualified for, just apply for it. You just may get a call and it may be the opening that you've been really looking for. Apply for the government internship. People are really benefiting from it. We have a few naysayers, but people are really benefiting from it as well. So for me personally, for my future, I'm really hoping, since I just finished on my master's, after I'm eligible for graduation and after graduation as well, that I may be able to progress to my PhD. I actually have a project that I'm working on. I'm hoping that I can actually work on for my PhD, which would really be on something similar to what I'm doing for my master's. So really, I'm just hoping that I can do a project on genetic modification of these microbes, so that you can ensure that you're actually getting maximum value, that you're having more nitrogen fixation, you're having more P solubilization, you're having more nutrition for the plant, and you know that way you end up with strains that are actually very, very beneficial, and that are well adapted to the different regions, because the problem maybe with strains is they're very specific to certain regions, and have strains that may adapt to different types of soil, different soil parameters, different weather patterns as well. So I'm really thinking of going into something on genetic modification of the stem. So that would be on what I plan to do later. I'm also hoping that by the time I will have grown my company, Jupri Enterprises, and I'm also hoping to have also settled very well in what I do. I personally believe that you do not have to limit yourself. You can become an entrepreneur, you can go into corporate, and you can also stay as a scientist, because for most scientists, staying in science is a passion, and you shouldn't limit yourself to a box that just because you're studying sciences, you can't become an entrepreneur, or just because you're studying sciences, you can't go into the corporate world, because eventually we need all this experience that we get everywhere to mold us as individuals, because in as much as you're a scientist, you're also a person, and people should be all rounded. There's a saying that people like to repeat. It says that you allow yourself to become a jack of all trades, because people say that a jack of all trades is a master of none, right? Yeah, but a jack of all trades is maybe a master of none, but is still better than somebody who only mastered one thing. So instead of just sticking to one line, allow your brain, allow yourself to diversify. That way you have grown into a wholesome person. And I think the most important thing in this life is to come in and actually live the life. Actually come and experience every single thing that comes with it. If you're interested in policies, in biopolicies, and you're also interested in microbiology, explore the biopolicy part. Don't just say, I'm a microbiologist, I can't go into biopolicy. Go into biopolicies. People are coming up with biopolicies for microbiology, and they actually need somebody who is well versed in microbiology to come up with these policies. So I think that people should allow themselves to be all-rounded, and it's good for your mental health, it's good for your physical health, and it also makes you wholesome.
Thank you so much. You've been one of the easier people to interview because you really connect the points so well. So, is there something? I feel like I said a few things,
but it's okay.
Is there something that you'd like to talk about that perhaps you did not ask? A little parting shot before we allow Valerie to maybe ask her own 2 or 3 questions.
Not very sure. I may have hopped around a lot, so I may have mentioned every single thing. I think for a parting shot, it's just an encouragement. Where you are right now isn't where you are, and what you're doing right now is something that you had planned on doing. So it doesn't matter whether you're tamaking right now, whether you're looking for a job. This is where you're supposed to be. This is where you just came from. You've come from a certain place that you had planned on. Trust the process. Every single step that you take counts for something. Don't think to yourself that I've been tamaking for 3 or 4 years. Hell is on my back. I haven't paid rent. I haven't paid all these things. Or I'm going as an early career scientist and I'm not moving as fast as I would want to move. I'm not progressing up the ladder as I would like to progress. I think the whole idea of living life is to acknowledge where you are, acknowledge where you are right now, and then be hopeful for the future. I think that's what people should do. Be hopeful for the future. Plan ahead and just expect that everything will work out, because you have it planned out. In case it doesn't work out according to your plan, life always has its own plan, and everything works out eventually. It doesn't matter how slow you feel you're moving. It doesn't matter how dark it may seem for you. Everything works out eventually. Even the best professors in the world didn't really know that they become the best professors in the world at that certain point. So just be hopeful. Just do whatever it is that you can for yourself. Do whatever it is that you can for the world, and your life will set itself out. Yeah, basically that's it. So thank you for having me.
So I don't know if Valerie has some questions for you.
Well, I don't think I have questions because you've already answered what I wanted to ask, which was how do you deal with rejections? And I'm really grateful that you answered that. And also what you said about learning about R. Yeah, now I think that has sunk in. And thank you so much for the great advices. I think this has been one of the most informative interviews that we've had so far. So thank you. And we look forward to interviewing you again in the future. So thank you so much.
When we've grown more.
Yeah, we surely would. So we wish you well in whatever you do. And we'll be in contact. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And for the opportunity as well.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, my camera is back on, which means you're at the end of the interview. So we could be a bit less formal as we say our goodbyes.
As we say our goodbyes.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'm really proud of of what you guys are doing. I'm really happy with what Sarah is doing. She's doing a really good job on her podcast and on the blog. And for me, that was really inspirational. And that's actually how we actually got to get in contact. I actually think she's doing a lot. There's a lady, I don't remember. I'd met a lady, I don't remember what her name was, but what she was doing is she was interacting with scientists abroad. And then anytime that they come into Kenya, they're able to go through different unis and just going through different unis and teaching the graduate students about what their projects are doing. I also think that's a very good thing. I would have mentioned it, but I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember what it was called, but it's like science outreach where scientists or any type of scientist who is working on a project can get an opportunity to present their research to postgraduate students. And I think that has been really great because they've been doing it both four sessions. We are visiting scientists as long as if they come in here, they come to Kenya for a different conference, and they have like a free day or a free afternoon, they're able to have students, and that has been really great on mentorship as well. So I related that with what you guys are doing, and I think you guys are doing a really great job. And most people, many people benefit from it. So yeah.
Thank you. We also hope that, in the course of time, because things grow over time, this interview will be able to reach more people, because that's where the impact would really be felt. And I really hope we can pursue that idea of a wellness unit at some point.
Yeah, always about it. I think what we should do is pitch that idea anywhere you guys show. Just pitch it to different people. You never know who might hear it. You may actually pitch it to people who work on curriculum development. And we could even actually have people write it, because I think it's been a really big issue. And this was really highlighted when we had the doctor from KNH. She was also a postgraduate student. She did her rounds, went to her car, and then she just committed suicide. And I think it's a really big issue for people in postgraduate, because we've been seeing them. You meet people, you're friends with them, and then you get a call that they passed away. You're really wondering, this person wasn't sick, how did they die? And you're told that they killed themselves. And it's usually very hard, even for their friends and even for the people who work with them, because you keep thinking, this person was going through the same things I was going through. So I'm strong right now, but what if I'm not strong, later? Because you never really know at what point it gets to. So I think people should get the help as early as possible. People should just get the encouragement from the beginning. Maybe it should be added to, maybe we should pitch it mostly for postgraduates. We can really try to pitch it for the undergraduates, but that one becomes a bit tricky because of their courses. But I think we can actually try and pitch it anywhere you go. When you guys do the shows, just write it up below the comment section. Have it written. We're really pitching for the mental wellness unit.
Yeah.
And then also maybe you could get scientists. Like you could get scientists working at these centers. Maybe if you are able to interview them, and they could be in positions where they could be able to assist in such an issue, because I think it's very critical. Mental health is a big issue. People don't talk about it. It's a very big issue, and especially for people in postgraduates who have to balance work, who have to balance families, who have to balance their whole setup. It's really hard. And also, like Valerie said on rejection is rampant in the sciences. What? Rejection is very rampant. You come up with a concept paper, you show up to a professor, and the professor says something like, your project is good, but I've never worked with you before, so I can't take you in in my lab. And that's usually very hard, and it actually fosters the whole imposter syndrome in most people, because you're not getting confidence around you. You're not being built to be mentoring you to grow, issue as it is. And also, I also think I also think there should be a unit, but not for the students, but for the lecturers as well. I think that every person who can become a supervisor, because most of the troubles that we have with most postgraduates is having terrible supervisors. People working with PIs they cannot relate to. So people are not able to express their problems, to express some of the concerns that they have in projects, because the supervisors do not really know how to interact with people. They don't know how to handle adults. And I think they should also have like a course or a unit on how to handle the whole mental health thing with students, because it's a really big, when you're in graduate school, you're able to see a lot of things, and it's a really big issue.
It is. Yeah, but thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this interview, and I hope you have a Yeah, so I think we'd like to wind up at this point. I hope we can continue to keep in touch so that we can,
love that a lot. I really love that.
I know there's some things you've mentioned in the interview that we're also interested in. Maybe we'll showcase them at a future date. Okay. Yeah, but thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the weekend, although it's almost finishing.
Sundays are very short. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Dennis and Valerie. You guys are a good spot. I actually enjoyed this. I'm sorry, I talk a bit, so I tell people in advance.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, we also told you in advance that you're the best kind of people to interview.
Yeah.
But it's less work for us.
Yeah. So thank you, Anna.
Okay, have a nice weekend.
Have a nice weekend too.
Do you want to start your own podcast? Start with some simple gear that you already have and a quiet space. Simple gear includes a microphone, editing software, and host of your podcast. Simple microphones include the ones on your phones and computers, or a simple recorder, which you can upgrade later. For the editing software, I use Audacity, which is free and simple to use. Buzzsprout, which over 1,000 other fellow podcasters like me use, is one of the podcast hosting providers you can use. Buzzsprout has helped me link my show on every major podcast platform. With the endless number and regularly updated tutorials and good customer service support Buzzsprout offers, my podcasting journey has been made easy. Following the link in the show notes, let Buzzsprout know we sent you. Gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and helps support our show.